Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, joined by Jory Stillman, who is a whole person leadership coach. And we're going to be talking about choosing well when it matters most. Jory, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
But
of course. So we're just going to talk about making decisions and what people can do in a leadership role to really navigate the complexity of that without the urgency, the stress, the being overwhelmed by the decision, and how you help people with that. And so before we jump into all that, Jory, why don't you tell us a little bit about your own personal journey and what you're doing as a whole person leadership coach?
yeah, so I will keep it the first part very brief, but my early career was in education. And I like to say that I was a formal educator, but I also taught a lot of yoga. And so I like to say I taught ages 50 through 80 and sometimes in the same room. So it was already like we're talking 15 years ago when I transitioned out of education into coaching, mentoring, and training full time. So I've been working full time as a coach, whole person leadership, coaching, and well being since, yeah, 2014.
Okay. Did you say ages 50 to 80?
Oh, sorry. Did I say that? I said age 5 to 80.
5 to 80. Okay.
I taught the gamut, probably
Oh,
even
yeah.
five.
So what is that? Is that kindergarten or first grade?
I never taught kindergarten. I taught first grade.
The
And
the toughest grade, as my wife, who was a former first grade teacher, would chime in.
yes, agreed. My sweet spot was definitely second and third grade, and really have moved into teaching adults. When I'm in addition to my work as a coach, I also train and mentor coaches. So at this point, I'm not teaching children, but I still love them.
But don't you think a lot of what you did in the classroom can apply to people, older people as well?
100%. I mean, that old saying, like everything I ever really needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. I would say it's true.
We just need to be reminded of it, right?
Yes, and often.
Okay. Well, talk to me a little bit and explain the concept of a whole person leadership coach.
Yeah. So really, when I say whole person, I'm working with everything. So both inside of work and outside of work, taking into account because what happens outside of work also impacts
Yeah.
inside. So um, they're really combined in that way. So it could be relationships, well-being, and how it impacts oneself as a leader as well.
I think that is so true. And I love talking about this stuff. I had a post up on last Friday, and a friend of mine, left a comment because when I post on LinkedIn, Monday is strategy, tactics on marketing. Wednesday, I share interviews like this. And then Friday, it's personal and I share about my personal life. She's like, I don't know. She's like, I'm not sure if you're in marriage or you're a marriage or marketing or you're a marriage counselor. Cause I was talking about just some things with my wife. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's a little of both. It's kind of like if you're not present and things aren't good outside of work, it's really gonna mess you up at the workplace without a doubt.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And I appreciate that about you also, that you talk about yourself and, you're bringing your full self here to the work in an authentic way.
I'm trying. I'm not sure if anybody's interested in
I
me.
I'm interested.
No, but actually, somebody said, and I feel this is true, that everyone has a story. And as long as it's told with detail and authenticity, people will find it interesting. And I really think that's true. But let's get back to the coaching and the whole person leadership coach and talk to me about presence and discernment. That was in the show notes. How that's cultivated through emotional awareness, and this is really important, nervous system support, which I've just become increasingly aware of.
Yes. So which part of that do you want me to start with?
How about everything?
Well, we make better decisions when we're calm. I mean, the simplest way of saying it is when we're settled, when our body is calm, we think clearer, we
Yep.
have more expansive we can perspective,
Yeah.
and from that place we can just make wiser decisions. So that's the simplest way of saying it.
Yeah. So why do you think so many leaders struggle to get to that place of calm?
Because they're human. That's number one. Right? I would say because I mean, the simple yeah, because they're human, and, um, I think going back to what you said about, being an early childhood educator or whatnot, we're not taught a lot of these skills about how to regulate as part of the everyday curriculum. Hopefully, that is changing.
Yeah.
So leaders grow up and we become, we're human beings and we become leaders in workplaces and we haven't learned certain skills. So I think it's really, these are capacities that we're not necessarily born with. Some of us are born, I would say, more regulated. We run calmer or we run hotter, but it's their capacities that we can develop as human beings and as leaders.
Yeah, it's so amazing that sense of calm. And I feel like it's kind of strange, but correct me if I'm wrong. It kind of slows everything down. Like, and I'll use I'm a basketball player, or used to be, and I loved watching Michael Jordan play because it didn't look like he was going as fast as everyone else,
Hmm.
yet he was in complete control of everything. And I feel like we're all human, and when we get in control and are in a groove, things slow down, right? It just seems like you have plenty of time, you get to this place of calm. And so tell me, you mentioned about presence, this prerequisite is this presence. Is presence what helps you get to that state? Or I'm sure there's much more than that, but talk to us a little bit about how do we get to that sense of calm?
Yeah. Well, before I do that, I'm making an observation that even when you were talking, you slowed down, your language was slower, you seemed very, very grounded, and there was more spaciousness as a result of that. I felt calm in the face of how you were speaking and communicating.
Okay, good. Yeah, because, right. I guess because I've done this now, I'm used to it. And that I understand. I'm not panicking. Now that I'm thinking about myself, I am starting to panic. No, you know, I've kind of, it does, it slows you down. So, how do you coach someone to get to that point?
Yeah. Well, first they have to bring it as something that's a problem for them. But the first thing, there's sort of the top down approach and the bottom up approach. I'd say top is cognitive down, and the bottom up would be a more somatic, sensorial, I think that's the right word, feeling the sensation. So this is really a combination of that. So one way of doing that would just to ask somebody to invite them to pause, maybe feel their feet on the ground.
Hmm.
It's very simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We still need to learn it, and that's why I love it. I'm all about simplicity, but something along the lines of, noticing, feeling your feet on the ground, and then in the face of whatever they're experiencing, you're talking about naming the emotion, just naming the what's coming up gives us distance from us, and
Hmm.
we act from a wiser place.
Name it, you can tame it, right?
Exactly, name it to tame it, exactly,
Yeah.
and just naming it like, "Ah, I'm anxious right now.
Yeah.
Oh, anxious, and what's most important to me? What is the value? How do I want to move forward?" And this is, it will start sort of as something you need to learn, but then it becomes more part of you when we're practicing it.
I read the book, The Love Prescription by the Gottmans. Sure if you're familiar with them. It's an amazing book, especially if you're married, of course, or in a relationship. But I you just said something I thought was really important, and I'm linking it back to that book in terms of there's some small things you can do. They're very simple, but they can have a dramatic effect. I mean, do you see that as you're coaching, that when people there's like a light bulb moment, like your client's like, "Oh, okay, really? That was it, and now I feel like this?"
100%. And not only do I see it, but I see it really every day in which I'm coaching people. And it could be as simple as people are often coming from one meeting to the next meeting and they're harried, right? I'm saying they, but we can
Yeah,
all trap to this being harried. So just pausing for a moment, or it could be it could be a 2-minute meditation or something
yeah.
like a simple breathing technique. And I could even do it with you here, and we can notice the difference.
Let's do it.
Okay, this is called a physiological sigh, and there's actually evidence behind it.
Okay.
Um, and it's so simple. And I'm going to be curious if you what you feel after you do it. So it's like this: you just take 2 sips of breath in and let it out. Do that 2 more times. So,
Yeah.
so what do you notice?
Yeah. Just a little calmer. Yep.
Yeah, a little calmer. And I don't know this, don't quote me on this, okay? I'm not a scientist, but it kind of feels like something we just do naturally. Like if we notice we're bracing, right? Or we're tense and we're bracing, we kind of just, we might be holding our breath and then we let out a big sigh.
Yeah.
They're simple tools, they're accessible tools, um, and they make a difference.
Let's go back a little bit to, well, thank you for giving us that exercise, but let's go back a little bit. You mentioned the point that people have to understand or realize that they actually have a problem, that they might need to unclench and relax. What are some symptoms people want to look out for to make them realize, hey, something's not right with me?
Yeah, I mean, any tension that they're experiencing and asking them where they're experiencing tension. It could be tension in their jaws, how they're holding their jaws. So even a simple exercise like relax your jaw, relax your tongue, and setting a little reminder to relax your jaw or relax your tongue. Um, People experience, I don't want to name it anxiety. We can run of the mill anxiety. Um, Especially in the world that we're living in all kinds of places. I happen to feel it in my chest and in my belly.
Hmm.
Well, that's how I know. Other people get really hot. It's just it really depends. Other people experience it in their legs. Whatever it is there's different ways of have to be with the client and ask them, how do you know what signals is your body sending you that you're dysregulated, that you're something is out of balance?
I mean, okay, I'm going to push back. Jory, listen, I'm in a high pressure job. I have mouths to feed. This is just my world.
Yeah.
You it's high pressure here.
Yeah.
Why do I don't even have time to take those 2 breaths. Tell me why.
Push back on that. If you
Alright.
right. I would support you to find yeah, I would push back on that to help you find those just 2 breaths because 'cause we're not talking about things, but sorry, do the
Okay, but beyond the 2 breaths, maybe that's not a good example, but why do it's just nature of the beast.
so, yeah, what is the cost? What's the cost of continuing on like that? What is asking that person, like, what is the impact of continuing in the way in which you're continuing? What are you noticing? How are you feeling? What are you experiencing? How are the decisions you're making? Are they good decisions?
Mm,
When you're
yeah,
going back to slowing down to make better decisions, it's kind of this idea of the long, short way versus the short, long way.
yeah.
Right? You might make a decision and it because we were making it out of a place of stress, it might not be a good, wise forget good, but wise decision in the long run, and we need to backtrack. So
I'm gonna share something personal that just happened to me over this weekend. I was a victim of identity theft, and it was self-induced. I did something that I tell everybody never to do. And after it was done, I was really beating the hell out of myself for doing it, you
hmm,
know? And I was also a little mystified.
hmm,
Why did I do this? Why did this happen? Um, very thankful for my family who reassured me that I'm a human being and that these things happen to people. A lot of my friends stepped up and said the same thing, and that was great. But I think the lesson for me was that when I did it and I gave away some information, well, I won't go into the details. The hack was pretty sophisticated,
hmm,
but I knew not to answer the phone and I did. I
hmm.
made that bad decision, but I was at the end of the workday. I was super busy. I had a bunch of things going on and I screwed up. And I think that, you know, it's kind of like almost what you're talking about, whether you're in deep or you're, you're feeling physical pain or you're just worried about getting in that situation where you might make those poor decisions. I mean, I think what you're talking about is almost, one to get you out of those bad situations, but two, regular maintenance to make sure you don't get in them in the first place would be helpful as well. I
Yeah,
mean, do you,
and I don't know, like, I would ask you and, when you decided to answer the phone or whatever it was that led to it, do you
yeah.
know what was happening? Going back to creating self-awareness
Mm,
and asking yourself, well, what was going on in that moment?
yep.
I mean, hindsight is 2020, obviously,
Yeah.
but going forward, how to in a similar situation, which I know nothing really about the details, how to be more present to make a healthier decision for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, I've talked to people who are in a bad situation like at work. And and I'll say to them, you don't even realize the state you're in. And you usually don't until you like maybe if you're in a horrible job till you get out of that job.
Right.
How do you I mean, short of working with Jory Stillman, how do you kind of give someone some clues that they can spot where they're in something too deep and that they need to do something to change it?
I mean, again, going back to be it depends on somebody's level of self-awareness, but what's happening. How are they sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally, what are they feeling?
Hmm.
Uh, what is Are they tense all of the time? How are they responding to their loved ones? How are they responding in the work environment? How do you
Yeah.
feel when you get up to work to go to work every day? Those are the sorts of things to be paying attention to. I mean, in my experience, people, at least people who are coming to me, maybe they're more self-aware already. People oftentimes who are seeking out coaching and are growth oriented. This is not
Yeah.
the case. They're aware that something is wrong and I need to change it. I mean, I've had all sorts of scenarios. Sometimes people even will get very depressed because they know that they're in a not a healthy situation. So it just depends on the person and how do they manage things.
Talk to me a little bit about the nervous system and regulating that and getting it regulated at some point. My wife talks to me about this a lot.
Yeah. Um, well, with the ability to calm ourselves down is an essential tool to being present. I mean, even if I'm asking myself, I'll just use myself as an example right now, since here we are. I'm on I'm on a LinkedIn Live, and generally when I'm speaking on a public forum, I have some internal activation and I need to manage that internal activation. My body is sending me signals that I'm a little bit activated. We'll just call it what it is, a little bit
Yeah.
nervous. And sometimes in that state, I mean, the a severe example would be somebody loses their train of thought and they cannot get their
Yeah.
back,
Yep.
right? If we're in a public speaking, we know that public speaking for people is one of the most feared things. I think it's up there with like death and taxes,
Oh,
or
yeah. Right. Yeah.
death, fear of death and fear of public speaking. It's a real thing. So yeah, like what is the state of my nervous system and am I able to regulate myself? It's useful to learn how to regulate ourselves in for every part of our lives, whether that's in leadership, in life, parenting, um, our interpersonal relationships, marriage. Because when my favorite quote is by Viktor Frankl, um, between stimulus and response, I forget, I don't want to butcher it, but between stimulus and response, I think there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response is our growth and our freedom. And that's really the essence of what I do. And to be honest, yeah, that is the essence of what I want to support people with, is how to create more space to make wiser decisions. And it's within all of our reach to be able to do that.
And I don't think there's enough emphasis put on that being in the moment, that moment you are talking about. That's the golden moment, whether it's,
Open
you
mo-
know, business or life, is being in the moment, because I mean, my wife will talk about, you know, talking to me, and then she knows I'm not there. I'm not listening. I'm thinking about the work or something else. And that ability to be in the moment, um, it's not easy to do, right? I mean, it does take some training, especially.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if it's a natural thing, but I think it is. But we need reminders on how to get there because it's so critical.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the nature of our minds to wander and to prognosticate and to be distracted. I think some of us are more distractible than others,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it is the golden, how can we get back into that present moment, and getting back into present moment awareness, naming an emotion, grounding, and then from that place, there's just more perspective opens up. It's more expansive, and we can make wiser decisions. And so that's why I was saying it's both a top down approach and a bottom up,
Right.
cognitive and somatic
Yeah.
piece. which again will help us in all of the areas of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Joe Dispenza before, but like he talks about taking those deep breaths up from the heart and up into the head and then exhaling back down. So it's almost kind of like the top down thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, breath work, we're not talking now about breath work, but breath work is about nervous system regulation.
Relation.
And there's, incredible research out there. I always say it used to be a very woo-woo topic. Now it's got, I call it evidence-based woo.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it's good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I want to harken back to something that's on your LinkedIn profile, the messy middle. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you mean by the messy middle?
Yeah. Well, the leaders that I work with are often people who are like what is it, in the messy middle. They're balancing family life. They're often, I would say closer to the and late 40s into the 50s, either raising kids, launching kids, and they're also busy with elderly parents oftentimes. And in addition, having a lot of communal responsibilities. So they're really just carrying a lot,
Hmm.
whether that's at home or in the workplace. And they want to thrive, flourish as much as possible in this very sort of sensitive time. And that's not to mention like the state of the world, right? This is
Yeah,
just what is happening often in this period. So a lot of transition, a lot of choices, just a great need for being as present as possible, as regulated as possible. Um, it's a dynamic time. It's a fruitful time, but it's a lot. And that's kind of those are the people that I gravitate towards and that I love to work with. Um, and I guess I have a soft spot for it because I'm in it too.
yeah, so am I, right? Obviously, I mean, I think it's I think that calm that you talked about to me is so helpful. Um, I think about my relationship with my kids, and my natural instinct is to try and guide them, have expectations for them, instead of just letting them discover and be who they want to be. And I think when I'm in the moment and just letting that happen, I'm more accepting of that. I'm not in my head. And then like I'm taking care of my dad with my family, and he is starting to suffer from dementia. And instead of like trying to, dad, you should be doing this, or my expectations, because it's my dad, if I can just be there for him in the verbal exchange and just be there, it's amazing what kind of pressure it takes off you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry your father is going through that. What
Yeah.
comes to mind, like you even said it earlier, and then extending it with your father is just this piece of acceptance,
Mm, yeah.
um, the role of acceptance and presence, uh, and in being with these hard challenges
Yeah.
and of letting go. Both of all of that there's like so much potential to have deep conversations just about those two topics separately,
Right. Right. Well, Jory, one last thing here, because I asked somebody else about this one time, and I think it's really important, especially with emotional awareness and being in the moment and the things that you're helping leaders do. Have you ever had anybody go through your training, or just even have discovered this on their own and become aware on their own and said, yeah, I tried being really emotionally aware and in the moment, and that stuff doesn't work?
I mean, what I'm hearing in that people say that all the time. What I hear that is, I'm not the kind of person that I'm,
Yes.
and that's sort of a growth mindset versus fixed mindset perspective. So I would maybe name that and acknowledge them for having that experience and gently challenge them, that progress is not linear. This is not the work that I'm doing is not sort of 10x coaching, right?
Yeah.
It's a lifelong process of growth and development. That's what it means to
Yeah.
work with the whole person and developing these different capacities.
And it's not, so it's like you'll hear that before they get into the journey and before they start. But I mean, I don't think anybody, once they are there and moving forward and they don't want to go back, right? Like, gee, I really wish I could go back to being harried and frantic and stressed out. It's like, do it because you won't regret it.
Yeah. But the other important piece is that people need to want to make a change in their life.
Yeah.
We can't make anybody do anything. Can introduce ideas, show the benefit evidence that it will increase their quality of life, but ultimately it's up to the individual to decide, like, hey, this is meaningful to me, this is of value to me, and I want to put time and attention on it.
Well, Jory, we're at the top of the hour. If someone wants to get a hold of you and likes what you're talking about and would like to embark on their own journey, and get out of this, state of despair or stress, and talk to you about some evidence-based woo and some small steps they can take to make a big difference, how do they do it?
Yeah, you can reach out to me here on LinkedIn, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, or at expansivecoach.com. So expansive with an A.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. All right, Jory. Well,
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
I really enjoyed this.
Oh, yeah, me too. This was great. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on Thought Leaders Live. Jory, just hang on for a second as I end the stream. But we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks.